WWE may be the ultimate end goal for the vast majority of professional wrestlers, but the cream doesn't always necessarily rise to the top. While they have one of the most exciting and action-packed rosters that the world of professional wrestling has ever seen, they do have a tendency of mismanaging some of the great talent on their books. It's often tricky to find sympathy for WWE, but it must be hard for the company itself, as the magnitude of talent they possess isn't exactly always easy to balance out with all the other talented wrestlers at their disposal. For every NXT or independent wrestling starlet that succeeds, there are always 5 others that fail to make an impact. The looming presence of AEW is always a concern for WWE and has been for the last 2 years. These neglected talents finally have a viable alternative to go to and make a living for themselves if it doesn't work within Titan Towers. So, let's take a look back at 5 promising WWE talents that didn't quite work out. Number 5. Chris Hero, Cassius Ohno. We start this list off with a signing which some may consider a success and some may not. Cassius Ohno wrestled on the independent circuit for years as Chris Hero and had torn it up for some of the biggest promotions outside of the WWE. He was a highly coveted signing for the company in 2011 and was part of the original gang of NXT wrestlers. He was also supposed to be the 3rd member in the Shield, but as the old adage goes, plans changed and Ohno found himself getting released. While he did eventually return, Ohno was used primarily as a jobber on NXT, preparing other prospects for success. He was as far from the main roster as you could possibly get, and was most recently seen jobbed out to the likes of Kushida, Travis Banks, and Matt Riddle. His most recent move saw him take his vast experience over to NXT UK, where he again found very little success, and was one of the more notable superstars to be released by WWE in that year. An underwhelming tenure for sure. Number 4, the Good Brothers. 2 for the price of 1 here. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson were supposed to be the hottest tag team entering free agency in early 2016. Having set New Japan on fire with their tag team work as members of the Bullet Club, they were considered absolutely massive signings for WWE, especially as they'd likely be joining up with longtime ally AJ Styles in the near future. Another former member of the Bullet Club was already waiting in the form of Finn Balor in case things didn't exactly pan out with AJ Styles. From the rumours that they would be taking over WWE with Styles and Balor never coming to fruition, to not having appeared on TV for long stretches of time, the duo really fell down the ranks quite quickly during their WWE run. To be fair, they did walk into Mania 33 as reigning tag champs, and they went on to win the belts on a second occasion. But, considering their status as one of the world's finest tandems, their WWE career can only be seen as a disappointment. Unlike Chris Hero, or Cassius Ohno, who seems to have faded away into obscurity, Gallows and Anderson have at least managed to find themselves still around the top of the card in AEW and in Impact Wrestling. However, since Impact and AEW ended their much maligned Forbidden Door relationship, who knows where we will next see the Good Brothers again. Number 3, Austin Aries. While many of you may have expected Adrian Neville to be on this list, and I'll be honest, he nearly was, I've chosen to go with his old adversary, Austin Aries, instead. Neville is a former NXT champion, the greatest ever cruiserweight champion, and even competed for the WWE championship at one point. While his career didn't exactly blossom like it was expected to, he was by no means a failure within WWE. Austin Aries, on the other hand, is a different story. Considered as one of the very best wrestlers in the world at one stage, Aries signing with WWE one day was pretty much expected to happen. He never got going on NXT, so WWE decided to make him the top face of the 205 Live roster, where he and Neville would have a great rivalry. However, after he realised that the Cruiserweight division was pretty much his ceiling, Aries promptly left the company and was most recently seen making headlines with Impact Wrestling, albeit for the wrong reasons. His talent promised us so much more than what was delivered. Now, in his defence, Austin Aries was used very poorly by WWE, who never really knew how to capitalise on his talent. An eye socket injury derailed his initial debut, so instead he worked commentary for a while, and it became somewhat difficult to separate the announcer from the wrestler. Being left off the WrestleMania DVD of that year proved to be the final straw for Aries, as well as Neville in fact, who have both gone on to bigger things since leaving the WWE. Number 2, Cain Velasquez. When Cain Velasquez signed with WWE in 2019, it was seen as a major coup. He was of course the one man that Brock Lesnar feared after defeating him in UFC. Velasquez would debut for WWE on the 4th of October episode of SmackDown 2019, igniting the show's Fox debut by confronting Brock Lesnar just shortly after the Beast had squashed Kofi Kingston in a mere 9 seconds. Velasquez himself would tease participation in the 2020 Royal Rumble, but WWE ended up going in a different direction, likely because Cain spoiled it himself and WWE may have wanted to move away from the obvious and predictable showdown in the future with Brock Lesnar. Velasquez hasn't wrestled since losing a WWE Championship match with longtime rival Lesnar at the Super Showdown in 2019. His signing was met with equal parts fanfare and cynicism, I think it's safe to say. The MMA legend knew that he would have to put in some serious work to win over the fans and to be taken seriously as a WWE superstar. Now, to his credit, he did work some AAA shows in Mexico as part of that preparation, and he did look to be coming along quite nicely. Unfortunately for Velasquez, however, WWE seemed to call on him pretty quickly. One key reason for this may be at the time when the news broke that WWE were looking to move away from Brock Lesnar featuring so prominently on TV. Cain's first feud would undoubtedly have been against the Beast Incarnate, so Brock's departure at that time may have likely impacted Cain's WWE potential. It isn't clear at this moment in time if WWE will ever have plans for Cain again, if they're looking to bring him back in the future, or if this was just one of those failed experiments that WWE are so well known for. Who knows what the future holds, but for now, Cain Velasquez's WWE run is over before it could even begin. Number 1, Hideo Itami, otherwise known as Kenta. Now, no list of this nature can be topped by anyone apart from Kenta Kobashi, one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time, but unfortunately, a complete non-factor within WWE. Debuting all the way back in 2014 on NXT, Itami never succeeded inside of the WWE, battling injuries over and over again. Even if WWE had big plans for him, they would get interrupted every single time by another injury to this incredibly talented superstar. A 5-star classic machine before joining WWE, Kenta was a massive signing, but one that just never really worked out. While he did debut with a lot of buzz and excitement around his latest acquisition, Itami never really got out of first gear. He had big moments like his feuds with Finn Balor and Tyler Breeze, or his tag team with Kota Ibushi, but he never translated it into long-term success. Even his 205 Live run wasn't the most fruitful. While people expected the 205 Live adventure to reboot his WWE career, Itami would request his release within a couple of months. Difficulty in learning English and staying healthy would ultimately contribute to his downfall and led to one of the biggest disappointments from a WWE signing of all time. Kenta has obviously gone on to find great success since leaving WWE, going back to Japan and becoming once again an absolute megastar over there, and even making a brief appearance in AEW, taking out Jon Moxley. Unfortunately though, it seems the wider audience of America may never get to see just how truly special and talented Kenta is. And there we have it, folks. Kenta rounds off my list of 5 promising WWE signings that just didn't work out for whatever reason. If you enjoyed this list, please make sure you hit the follow button if you're listening on audio platforms and the subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit the notification bell as well for more lists, more reviews, more great interviews, and I will hope to see you next time on It's My Wrestling Podcast.